Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good day wherever you are. So, this evening, I'm going to invite you to join me as we look at some of the questions and responses that comes up during your F1 student visa. Um, I am here to, encourage you to also subscribe, share, and like this video if it's pleasing to you. So before we begin, some of the questions that I'm going to be responding to, you remember that in your DS-160 you have already filled up these questions or responded to some of these questions, particularly as in regards to relatives and family. So one of the questions that comes up in your DS-160 is about your background. The VO would want to know about your background. And it may come in such a way that they want to ask you about if you have a relative in the US. And when they ask this question, I think they specified about direct family members, father, mother, brother, or sister. So when you have such family members, it's always important to indicate them during your application in your DS-160. So when they ask you, assuming, do you have relatives in the US who, or do you have any relatives living in the United States? So it's a simple, it requires a very simple response. You don't have to beat about that. If you do, if you do, your answer should be yes. And the response will also go ahead. You should focus simply on immediate family, like I said earlier. Focus on immediate family, father, mother, brother, or sister. Do not go into elaborative responses. They are not necessary. Just go straight to the point. Avoid introducing so many unnecessary relatives or relationships that may not help your point. So focus on the people that you are requested to respond um, about your relationship with them. Then it may come up also how many brothers and sisters you have. Simply go straight to the point. Mention how many brothers and sisters you have and what they are doing, where they are at the current moment while you are still interviewing. And if you are the only child, you can say, I am the only child. I do not have uh, brothers and sisters. And if you're also requested to talk about your brother and sister living in the United States, make sure you know their information and what they are doing. So it's very important. So you mentioned what they're doing. If your dad is in the US or your mom is in the US or your sister or your uh, any of your blood relatives, direct blood relatives, just simply mention my dad lives in the US. Uh, uh, you know, talk about his background. If he's a medical doctor, mention it. If he's a student, mention it. So these are some of the things that your VO wants to use to build a pattern. Then, if you are talking about your mom, talk about your mom, talk about her career and where she works. If she's a medical doctor, mention it and then where she works or where he works. The same thing with your sister. If your sister is um, a student, mention she's a student of this university and this is what she's studying. So these are patterns. Then when you say that, then listen to the interviewer and see what comes next after that. So let the questions be prompted by your VO, not by you. Then the VO might want to ask further about the income of your of your um, of your family member. That's that's their prerogative to decide. You don't have to decide on that, but you don't talk about it unless you are asked. Then, if another question comes, maybe about, are your parents supportive of your decision? You should be glad to respond to that question. If your parents are very supportive of your decision, you can say yes. And then if there are further questions, why do you think they are supportive of your decision? You can simply answer that because your parents believes in you, and they allowed you the freedom to make decisions about your life and about your career and about your future. And in line with that decision, you part of that decision was for you choosing to study in the United States. So, which is okay. So your VO wants to make sure that the decision you're making is voluntary and not out of compulsion or out of coerce. They want to make sure that this is a decision that you're making, because the worst thing that can happen to a student is, just like we have many students in Nigeria, you register for fine arts, and then all of a sudden you get into the university, they push you to study another course. A lot of students in Nigeria have that experience. So your VO would want to establish from your comments that you are making that decision for that study as something that is coming from you. Then if he or she decides to want to know if you're coming back, maybe during vacations or whatever it may be, like going on vacation while you're still a student, or returning home before your during vacations. Feel free to answer that if you have the information. If you don't have it, politely just say, I don't know, or yes, I'll be coming back, or no, or whatever the responses might be. But be very, 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 very open to that. And if you are asked, why should I give you a visa? You should be able to respond to that. Why should you be given a visa? One of the reasons why you should be given a visa is because you got an admission, you have an interest in a dream, and you got an admission in this school that supports your dream, and you feel because of this dream, and because of the plan you have for your future, you believe that you deserve to be given a visa. It's just a way of arguing to establish a point, establish a reason. It doesn't have to be what I said or how I'm putting it, but the reason is just to know how desirous, how serious you are about this. So these are some of the highlights I just felt I should just talk about. But I'll continue to make more videos as we progress. But I just want you to, at this very moment, share this video, like it, and subscribe so you'll be notified in my next videos. I'm just going to be making them as very short and as very simple as possible. Thank you, and have a great evening.